Yeah, I know. Don't even have to wash it. Just
Comb it with a wash rag.
yeah, exactly.
All right, we are live, and
Hi.
welcome everybody to Critical Blast Live podcast. We are live with Karl Stephan of Merry Boys, joining us from across the world in England, right?
Yep,
Or
that's it.
where you come? So
Sorry.
I've got your Indiegogo up here. I'm going to show it just a little bit here, and then we'll pop out for a while. So this is on Indiegogo Live right now, which is very cool. I've taken a look at it. Even though you probably had to say this 10, 20,000 times by now, just for that last $70 here, for that last $70, can we explain to any new people coming in what Merry Boys is all about? Why do people want to get into it and read this?
Let's see. Okay, it's about it's kind of the basic formula is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it's set in Britain, and it's a lot more dystopian and punk. It's basically about four teenagers with birth defects who were raised in the tradition of the ancient Knights Templar, and their birth defects give them this special power, if you will. Whenever they drink beer, they become faster and stronger. So a little bit like Popeye, only instead of spinach, they have lager. And they're on a mission to clean up their town, which is full of social evils and problems that full of sins essentially. And if the sins persist, eventually it is prophecy that their town will be hit with a biblical apocalypse, which is something I obviously want to avoid. So yeah, it's the genre I would say is it's dark comedy, with I guess it's a kind of superhero book. The first kind of superhero book I've done. It's a bit weird for me, but that's, I guess, is essentially what it is. And it's very British. There's a lot of British references and I don't know, just a very British feel to it.
You know, I get that directly from the art style as well. I mean, I look at when I look at just the art without even reading the word balloons, I get this sort of Des Skin, Judge Dredd kind of vibe off of the whole thing. And I can't explain why, because I can look at Judge Dredd, it's a totally different style, but I get that feeling that comes out of it. So you can get that sensibility from the art. I've definitely drank enough to think that I'm Superman too, so I can definitely relate with these boys.
Well, I'm glad that's how it's communicated. I mean, it's my primary influences are the Golden Age artists. So, like, you know, Jack Davis, Wally Wood, Will Eisner, that sort of thing. But at the same time, it's definitely more. The attitude is punk. You know, I think that's probably what comes through, because Judge Dredd was also just, you know, it was around the same time as it was born with the same sort of attitude in mind.
Yeah, the old Eagle comics.
Yep. Yeah, Star-Lord, 2000 AD, Eagle, action. Yep.
So where did the idea for Merry Boys come from? And you know, I know it's on the Indiegogo where they're describing. I'm sorry, I've got two different questions that are coming out of my mouth at the same time. I do that sometimes, but I know that the story kind of begins when the father who's raising them gets injured in the head and suddenly remembers that he was in the Knights Templar and has this prophecy. Is there any point in all of this where the boys are like, yeah, okay, father's a bit fucked up now, and then we're just going to have to humor him? Or do they truly believe what he's telling them?
You see, that's the thing. They believe it. They're kids. They're impressed. It starts off. See, the thing is, I've already planned out about 20 issues of this, and the first two issues are the origin stories. And the starting point is, yeah, they believe it. They are impressionable. The main, well, you see, you have one of them, William, who speaks to the camera, who breaks the fourth wall and speaks to the reader, and he would be the one who kind of gives the impression that, yeah, we're going along with it, but I kind of have my doubts. That's the kind of that's the kind of path I want to put this on in future. But essentially, there's a lot to corroborate what's going, because he sees these, he has these flashbacks, and they have a lot. And the other thing is they see an apparition of the Virgin Mary appear in their targets. It's almost like if you every night you've got the National Enquirer, right, where people see UFOs, right, and see the Virgin Mary in sources of milk and barks of trees and things like that. And it's almost like that, where it just appears and guides them like a leading light. So it kind of corroborates the whole. I don't want to call it a fantasy, but.
But these are things, then the father's not messed up. These are truly things that are happening. They're not working in a delusion.
Yeah, in a way, it's something I will develop in future. I know exactly what it is, but it's not something I want to spell out this early. I mean, of course, there are mystical elements, and the reasons for those mystical elements will come out later on. The apparitions and the visions and things. Parrish himself has got this backstory. In fact, I think he's probably the most interesting character. So for the people who haven't read the Indiegogo, basically he was like several years ago, decades ago, he was stationed in a small English town called Basham. A chain of stores basically started, set up shop, and drove out all the small businesses, and the crime rate started to rise because people lost their jobs, and it just turned into a bit of a cesspit. And then one day, he was walking to his church, and somebody tried to rob him, and he got shot, and he went into a coma, and that's where all this past life regression happened, and he could see these weird visions. It doesn't quite come back all at the same time, but he just has this. He figures he just finds he's got this natural knowledge of how to wage warfare all of a sudden, and then all these little clues and things start popping up. So that's the basic gist of it. Now I want to, in future, I want to expand on that. I want to actually go back into his life previous to that. But I've got a lot of ideas. I've got a lot of places I want to take this story in future.
Sounds like he'd be very comfortable in the setting of something like Assassin's Creed.
I've heard, somebody told me subsequently, that sounds just like Assassin's Creed. I'm like, okay, because I don't play games or anything, so I'm like,
Well, I've read the graphic novels. I haven't played the games, but I'm not much of a big game player either.
No.
But yeah, it's not exactly the same. It's just the past life regression Knights Templar thing is a theme that everybody's built on that. It's a trope of science fiction now. The Templar Knights being such a rich mythology to delve into, and it being so. Did you do any or have to do any digging into historical records to find out what these guys were like?
Oh yeah, I did. I mean, okay, the big mystery is they didn't really keep records, so everything is open to conjecture, which is good because you can do a lot of interpretation. Just on the practices that were that all the traces and things that they left behind. There are quite a few sites in England of where they were. In my city, there is an old Templar round church, or the foundations of that. And just in London, I visited on just off Fleet Street at Temple Inn. There's an original Templar church there, an old round church with the round nave and the graves and everything there, and that was fascinating. I've done. I'd like to do like a little pilgrimage at some point and just go up north. There are quite a few more sites than down here where I'm located.
Well, there's even some here over near the States, because there's I would say it's a very popular show, but it's a cult popular show, The Curse of Oak Island. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a treasure hunting show, and it's been done in serial form. That they go to this island, there's just this deep well, and everyone who's tried to find whatever treasure is legendarily held there has died mysteriously. So we're recording it all now. We got all the machinery, and they're finding these gold coins with the marks of the Knight Templar, and they think that there's a Templar treasure hidden there, according to some legend that they're following. So, to make it all the way over here, these guys got around.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, they were the first international bankers. I mean, that's the real interest. It's a bit more mundane, but if you think about it, they were the first international bank. For people who don't know about this, the original Knights Templar were basically the safeguarders of the pilgrims who visited the Holy Land after the conquest of Jerusalem during the Crusades, and they would keep those pilgrims safe and also keep their money safe. They created the first set of bills of exchange, where people would hand in their money at one port, get essentially like a check, and the Knights Templar would honor this in the Holy Land once they arrived there, so they wouldn't be accosted by bandits and robbed of their valuables. So and it just grew out of that, and they became. I mean, I think the fighting and the classic imagery of them it was a very small component of all the other things they actually did. But of course, this comic is just about kicking butt, and I'm not going to get into all that other stuff.
Sure. Now, I don't know if you can see the comments popping up on the screen here. I'm bringing them over. Reed Troutman is online. He says, "Yellow Karl, how far along are you on the comic?"
I am. Well, all the pencils have been done, and I'm just doing the ink rendering now. So I'm just doing the ink washes. I'm about halfway with the inks. It just takes a long time in this particular style.
And then we have Captain F Head here. He says, "Mary is so close to 10K. Push it past that milestone." I agree. We definitely want to see. I want to see $70 happen tonight. Come on, that's what, 3 people jumping in on a book. We got 3 people in the chat. Come on, jump in, guys. Dude, help make this one happen.
And with this, the 10K is relevant because I'll be hitting the stretch goal. When the stretch goal comes, I'll be doing a booklet. For the making of the Mary Boys, because I got a lot of art that isn't included in the comic. I've been developing this for quite a while, and I just drew a lot of stuff with a lot of concepts and things that didn't quite suit the comic look wise, but that I like to create, that I like to put in some sort of separate book, and that'll be quite interesting, I think.
Now, speaking of the look, why do the boys look the way they look? You've given them a very specific description and a very specific anatomy. Is that important to the story, or is that just a style?
Well, no, it's they suffer from a health condition. It's similar to, it's similar to I keep forgetting what the thing's name is. Ectodermal plasmosis. It's ectodermal dysplasia. It's the same condition. Have you seen the first Hills of Eyes with Michael Berryman?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically like that. They've got cleft palates. They don't grow any hair. Don't have sweat glands. Only these kids also have big feet and big hands. So if they're
like Neanderthals with alopecia.
Yeah, they can't grow. Yeah, they just don't grow any hair. So I guess if you could imagine a very young Michael Berryman, only 4 of them, and that's essentially what they'd look like in real life. And but it's not quite that, because it also affects their metabolism. So they get these, when they drink beer, they get a shot of adrenaline, quite a high shot of adrenaline. So they're actually quite small and skinny, but once they've had a lager or two, they're quite aggressive and quite strong and quite fast.
So do they have to carry a keg around in the trunk when they go on patrol or go off to a fight?
That's the thing. It's always a backpack full of tins, and I want to explore some other sort of, like, what happens if they drink stronger alcohol, how they get more alcohol in a shorter space of time. I want to explore hangovers and things like that. Just the comedy effect of it is actually quite endless.
So you could also find out what, like, the mental aspects would be on their mystically attuned psyches if they had something like absinthe.
Yeah, okay, that's a whole different can of worms, isn't it? Yeah. Obviously, I'm also just poking fun at underage drinking, and I think I'm going to get done by the PC police for just not just that, a lot of things in this particular book is it's going to happen at some point.
Reed Troutman is running a safety check here. because you're in the UK, therefore you know everybody on all corners because it's a small place to
Of
us
course,
here in
yeah.
America. He's asking about, what about the insanity on London Bridge today? And I have no idea how close you even are to London Bridge, let alone London.
I spent 10 years in London. While I was there, there was this incident where there was actually a terrorist attack on London Bridge at that point. I was very close to that. But now I'm miles away. I'm in Bristol in the southwest. We're actually quite close to Wales.
All right, so
Yeah.
you were safe today when I guess some guy just went a little nuts with a knife and they took him down.
Yeah, I guess you Americans just laugh at that. A knife?
Yeah, he's got a knife.
He's got a knife.
Here, I got one in my pocket here, And yeah, I've had a little. I'm not the only one, I'm sure, but yeah, we look at that and it's like, okay, so you're gonna take away all the knives. Who's gonna pick up all the rocks off the street next? Because
Yeah, take away all the cars.
Well, yeah, right now you need them, but as soon as they start using them for weapons on purpose on a regular basis.
Yeah, like in Hamburg, they killed 52. I think it was 52 people who died. A few. It was now 3 years ago, 2016. 52 people died in Hamburg, mowed down at Christmas time. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, if somebody wants to kill someone, they're going to find a way to try to do it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, it's easier with automatic weapons. I'll give you that.
Absolutely, sure. And then I guess Reed has seen a page you'd drawn with the Pope or had drawn with the Pope in the telephone booth. Saw that was great and saw that on the Antonio stream. So you're making the rounds here in CG.
Oh yeah. Oh, thanks. I'll show that one quite quickly, actually. So yeah, good.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One thing on the terrorist attacks, I thought it was a while back. It was in Texas. I think there was a gallery on Drawing Muhammad or something like that, and
yes. Boston did that.
Yeah, and there was this attendee. It was Geert Wilders of a Netherlands party. He was going to be in attendance, and he had his bodyguards and everything, because I thought there's going to be a terrorist attack, because he's a controversial figure and all that. So true to form, there were two Islamic terrorists who came over from another state with AK-40, I think it was AK-47s or something, like assault rifles, and they were armed to the teeth. And they didn't make it. They didn't actually make it to the front door of the gallery because some cop shot them on the way.
We were looking.
just some guy in Texas. It was just some guy. He was actually a speed cop or something. He just he saw them. They pulled out their guns and he just shot both of them dead. And I was like, damn. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's Texas. There's the United States and then there's Texas. They're a little bit sharper with their guns and a little faster on the draw because it's still the Wild West out there in a lot of places.
Yeah, well, I found it really amusing because they actually showed some of the footage or some of the soundtrack. You could see the flashes going out from behind the cars, and it was just like rapid gunfire, like for quite a while. So they must have emptied the magazine clips, and then silence, and then just two shots, bang, bang, and then just quiet. There's, just a guy with a handgun.
We don't waste bullets around here. We're very efficient with them. All right, so we have Captain F Head saying, "Hail CG UK," and that brings up a question I like to ask whenever I do some of these live streams: is how influential was CG Comicsgate in creating Merry Boys? Is this something you were going to do anyway, and then saw, oh, look, here's an avenue where I could actually make this happen? Or was it, hey, they're having fun making comics. What could I do? I could do this. It's a chicken and the egg kind of situation.
Yeah, no, I've been sitting on this particular egg for quite a while, because I didn't think that it would be any sort of avenue for me to publish it. It was just something that kind of got spawned out of another idea that I had. And with certain ideas, you can't leave them alone. You can't, I just kept picking at it. It kept developing, but I kept going, okay, it's this, and it kept growing, and I'm like, shit, but no publisher is ever going to touch this. It's just never going to happen. So, and eventually, yeah, crowdfunding took off, and when Comicsgate came along, I was just like, this is exactly it. This is in the DNA of my comic book. I'm a free speech advocate. I don't want to go and temper my comic book to suit the zeitgeist. You know, it doesn't
Sure.
make any sense.
Yeah.
No, it's I could just see if yeah, there we go. That's great. I love that. No, it's listen. I see Comicsgate simply as a not when people ask me to define Comicsgate, I say it's basically just a lack of restriction. It's treating comic books as an art form. You know, you don't go to Francis Bacon and say, you know, I wish you wouldn't paint such bloody messes. Like you wouldn't use quite as much red in your paintings, or I wish you wouldn't do this or that. No, you just let them get on with it because, you know, it's art and it's self-expression. How dare you tell people what to insert, like put in a quota. And that is actually something that when I was doing my previous comic book called Sparko, was published by Slave Labor Graphics. You know, I submitted the comic book, and the publisher told me, you know, this is all right, but you got too many negative female characters in there. Now the graphic novel it's basically like Very Bad Things. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Christian Slater in the 90s. Yeah, it's just one of those stories where everything is extremely negative and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And everybody in that book is a douchebag. Is a douchebag, or is evil, or is just something wrong? Just whenever you think it can't get any worse, it does. And you know, to get the comic published, I had to go and make one positive character because you can't have a negative female character in the book. And I didn't really
realize a positive male character,
a female character, because you know, we can't have so many, because you know, we can't have this woman be a bad, because women can't be bad. You know, women can't be evil. Women can't. You know, it was just bullshit. Sorry, it just was. So, but I only realized this afterwards because I wasn't tuned in like that. I wasn't, you know, I just thought, okay, so this might actually be good advice, you know. And I felt, and afterwards, like after the book was published and it sank, I just, you know, I kept tabs on the particular editor, and I just saw that she was absolutely crazy. Or the Twitter feeds were, you know, the Twitter posts were anti-white men, constantly anti-patriarchy. And after a while, I just felt shit. You've been had. You basically let somebody tell you what you can write about. You know.
Did you ever go back and check? Did you ever go back and check the other stories that she edited to see if they all had one positive female character in them that just didn't fit?
Well, all the ones that were published around that time were all these the same kind of stuff that Oni Press is publishing now. You know, this sort of I don't know, Cal Arts sort of stuff, which you're not going to find anything controversial. I mean, I really like the older slave labor stuff, but
it used to be very cutting edge.
Yeah, I used to really love it. I mean, but they don't really publish anymore. They pretty much stopped. I think mine was one of the last books they did. But I used to really, I mean, I really loved Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. There was another one called Skella Bunnies, which I thought was great. Gloom Cookie, I liked. There's like this, like sort of goth sort of edge. There's the guy that went on to do Courtney Crumrin. I really liked that stuff with
Ted Knife.
Yeah, I really liked his. He's actually a really good storyteller. I thought, you know, it wasn't just a good artist, good stories too. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's a pity, you know, that happened to them.
Now I haven't checked deep enough into the Indiegogo to see if this is all you or if you're working with someone else. Do you do your own art, or are you working with an artist?
Unfortunately, I have to write and draw and letter and do everything on this book.
Oh, you know, you got full control now.
It just takes long. It's the marketing too, you know. I mean, the one good thing about if you're working in a team is you can say, okay, it's your turn to go onto Twitter. It's your turn to go do this, to go tout the thing around. Because I'm not a natural promoter. You know, some people are. Some people just eat it up. I strive. I've been getting better in the last while. You know, I've had to learn, but it doesn't come naturally to me. I see there's some more people in Commie Mark. Yeah, there you go. Anybody who tells you Comicsgate is just a bunch of right-wing gammons. That we've got an actual communist running Comicsgate UK. Not my shield.
I'm seeing Commie Mark in the chat here, and he's subbed. Thank you, Commie Mark. we'll take a little shill break here for a moment. Just to mention, we do have the link to the Indiegogo in the description. So if you have not already backed Merry Boys, don't confuse it with Nancy Boys, and don't ever call them that, because it'll be a beatdown you won't forget. They are Merry Boys. Obviously follow that link and do what you can. Pick a level here. We're trying to raise $70 tonight to push this to the stretch goal. We'll hit the $10,000 mark. That would make my year to actually be part of something in Comicscape that hit during one of my live streams. So please help us out. Appreciate you subbing. Below that in the descriptions, we do have, the call to action to like and sub the channel to grow our reach. And we have links of other ways that you can help. criticalblast.com. We have our t-shirt store where you can find even this beautiful piece of fashion. Ask me about my Comicsgate agenda. But we also have some other original artwork that we've commissioned for t-shirts that's out there. And we've got our latest shirts, the Rusty Chainsaw, the Fix This Now, and In a Cocaine Heartbeat shirts. So if you ever need to, I don't know, sit in the courtroom sometime and listen to somebody testify, you could wear those and show your support for your boy
Zach.
And your boy Zach, yes. It's funny. I was in Texas, which is like 1,000 miles from where I am now, last January. And the lawsuit's filed in Houston. I'm 40 miles from Houston. I'm taking off a day in February to go see this, because surely it's going to just go right in and be heard by a judge, the week after next.
No, that's not how it works.
It is a year later.
That's not how it works. It's just gone into the black hole. The lawyers are making their money now. They're just going to try and kill this. They're going to try and smother the whole court case. By the way, I've got a contribution from Reed Troutman. Thank you very much. We
just seeing that now.
Brilliant. So, yeah, it came through. Thank you. This is awesome.
Let's take a look at the page and get a refresh on it here. I need a drum roll sound effect. That's what we really need to have going. And we've gone white. So we've gone full white. Now we're waiting for reload of page. And of course, I'm doing this over Wi-Fi in the house because I haven't dropped a trunk line down yet. So that's on me.
I could give you, I could go look at my phone, but I think it'll give me in pounds and everybody's going to go, what? What's that?
We want to hit that. We want to hit an American stretch goal on this side. Of course, I don't know. Everybody, all the viewers might be over there with you. I might be the only Yank on the line here.
I think I don't know where Reed's from, but yeah, I've got my posse, my Comicsgate UK. Yes, so the thing is, yeah, we're down $45 away.
That's it. 99.55 people.
Closest damn. Yeah. So we where we started. It isn't a new imprint. It isn't a new brand or anything. It's literally just Comicsgate, but it's just for, it's just building some excitement for this phenomenon on this side of the pond, because a lot of the streams and a lot of the channels are obviously EST or Central Time, and a lot of people like myself. We just live in GMT, so we hardly ever get to see anything live unless we stay up 2 o'clock in the morning, or you know what I mean. So, and yeah, we're just drawing in other creators with doing independent projects which have precious sensibilities, and seeing where it goes.
So has CG UK had its schisms yet? Because I know that CG mainstream has it's gone from being like the Catholic Church to the Catholic and Anglican Church to Martin Luther nailing his proclamation on the door, and now we've got the cherries and the whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and no one is. It's like being a Protestant Christian and meeting another Protestant Christian of a different denomination and saying, "Dost thou love the Christ? Verily, yea, we love us the Christ. Then thou art our brothers and are Christians with us. Wait, what the hell art thou doing? Thou art loving God wrong. Thou art going to hell. Fuck you."
Yeah. Oh, you're baptizing when people are adults? No. We got to have our own church. No, this isn't acceptable. No. We're far too small for that. I'm sure we'll have our run-ins in time. That's just the nature of the beast. If you take a bunch of rebels essentially, and we are all rebels, we're going to start rebelling against each other. At some point, I expected this to happen from the beginning. I could see it, but the thing is, all it really means is that I don't see it as I don't really see it as people leaving Comicsgate, because the principles are exactly the same. A lot of people have started saying, "Oh, we're not Comicsgate anymore because of so and so." No, it's you're not. You had a fallout with a specific person. That doesn't change your approach to what you believe in general. That's what I understand. I'm all for diversifying. I mean, you've got your more radical sort of Protestant faction on there already, and you've got the guys who are a bit more middle ground. You've got like all sorts, and I think it's gonna diversify a hell of a lot more. And if you think about it, that's fine. But I don't see the point of denouncing Comicsgate itself, because the principle is just anti-censorship. It's just anti-gatekeeping. It's literally just recognizing
Exactly.
comics for as an art form. I don't see why anybody would say we're going to give up on that, because what is there? There's just the mainstream. Do you really want the mainstream to dictate? Some of these guys have gone and running back open arms to the worst characters in the shill media and the mainstream, hoping that maybe they'll accept us. Now they won't. They'll kick you in the teeth. They will. They have. They're gonna. What's the point? That's it.
Exactly. So when you saw Comicsgate, and with obviously all the work online, what was your first exposure to Comicsgate? I said where I should start.
It was watching your boy Zach's channel. That was it. It was before people. That was before professionals started getting involved in making comic books. He's just reviewing what's going on. I think it could have been a news article or something. And it was quite. They completely misrepresented what he was all about naturally. But I still went to go look, and I saw okay, he's saying like quite a few things I actually agree with. And I stuck around just in the, and then Ethan got involved, and Marcus Miller got involved, and I thought, hey, okay, this is building into it's morphing into something else. And I'm like, hey, I do comic books, from time to time. Why not give this a go?
Yeah, it's usually a case of if somebody's pissing somebody off, then they're probably doing something right. And Zach was definitely angering everybody around him. So I'm like, okay, this guy's a fireball. He's got something, and it sounds like it's something nobody else wants us to have. So let's pay attention to him.
Yeah, it was from the milkshake incident. I remember reading about that, and then and directly after that, I read about this article about Ethan Van Scaver being a Nazi, and I'm like, really?
Yes.
Then you start peeling away the layers of the onion, and you're like, I don't see it. I really don't see it. And I was like,
yep.
No, that's not what it is it?
Well, he's got all the right enemies to define what kind of person he is. And I've just I felt sad about Comicsgate these last few months, just seeing all the people falling away. Not even falling away, but just they came into Comicsgate because we appreciate the core principles, but this person or this couple of people who are Comicsgate are doing something that we think is very, very bad. Therefore, we no longer agree with these really good principles that we ascribe by. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to be a Southern Baptist because I believe in these things. Oh, but these Baptists in Westboro, Kansas are marching against funerals of gay people. Well, I'm going to throw out all these good things that Baptists ascribe to because I disagree with them who call themselves Baptists. It's insanity.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. It makes me think, why did you get involved with this in the first place? What was your motivation? But I think some people are just naturally okay. I'm contrary. I have to say that awfully. I step on toes. I do my own thing and whatever. So I can't. I don't know. We'll see how this peaks out. I'm just excited about trying to expand this in the UK, because I think there's still a lot of people who just don't know about it, who feel the same way and like to see things change. What does Cap say?
He's got CG UK is in a good position to learn from the wider movement. Yes, learn from our mistakes over here. Our hope is to learn the lessons CG has taught us. So far, so good. He's in the middle of a sentence that didn't finish there, so we'll let him continue typing and catch up with that.
He's been drinking hard. Yeah, Cap. Yeah, we know. Yeah. No. It's absolutely true. Okay, we'll say some YouTube show. We're getting our eggs in a row at the moment. Yeah, eggs. Now he says I look like an egg because I don't have any hair, so eggs keep coming up.
I can understand the egg thing.
It's a good look. It's a good look. Women love it.
It's a cheap look. I've saved so much money on haircuts. I actually let it go for like 4 weeks because it's cold out now, and I was like, well, maybe I'll put a little bit of insulation up there. And my wife said, when you get in the shower tonight, shave that off. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
So
Like,
okay, honey, I'll do what you tell me.
Dirty
as always. Now, back to Mary Boys here. You're crowdfunding the first 2 issues, but you mentioned that you've got several issues to go. Is this a limited series with a definite end that's just going to go a long ways, or is it?
No, I got. Well, the first 2 issues is a definite beginning. It sets up the main characters and it's got a beginning and an end. After that, I've got another 2 much longer arcs planned out with short, but they're made up of shorter stories, and they've got threads that conclude in a certain point where the arc will end. But it isn't. There isn't a definite end at this point. I've thought if I wanted to, do like God forbid, do a Cerebus on this and have it right up to the point of the end of their lives or something. But I haven't thought that far.
That's what I was thinking, was whether it was going to be something like Cerebus or Bone.
No, I don't have the stamina for that. I don't think.
Well, the money starts coming in, you might change your mind.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, I'd love. I mean, I think like a lot of people. I think everybody. They say breaking into the comic book industry is like breaking out of prison. Once somebody gets in, the hole gets sealed up, and nobody else can figure out how to do it again. Everybody's trying to get in, and I've never felt comfortable with the idea that I would work for Marvel or DC and just build their IPs. Draw their characters, write their stories, just and build their legacy instead of building my own. I've always been, I've always thought, okay, the ultimate would be creating an IP and running with that, making a living with that. It's just incredibly difficult to do. It's always been extreme. It's that's what everybody would want, and I can kind of like almost see a glimpse of that. I can see some people in Comicsgate and in crowdfunding in general are actually managing to do that. And I'm just very cautiously optimistic that maybe one day that would be the way to go. But yeah, who knows? Who knows where this is going to go? We'll see. So far, so good.
Well, obviously, the next step after you get the first 2 books out in an origin story is putting Karl into Netflix, right? You're planning to do that?
That's the thing. I mean, look, some of these artists, what I really don't like is the fact that they're kind of just doing comics because it's almost just a treatment for a Netflix series.
Yeah,
that's
it's a storyboard that they're getting other people to pay for.
Exactly. So I'm like the comic is the end goal. I mean, if something comes off the back of it, I'm going to do the comic as well as I can because I love comic books. I just it's I don't know. I think there are things that you can do in a comic book medium that you can't do with a TV series or a movie, or whatever the case may be.
Well, yeah, I've made the point in interviews before that there is nothing like the comic book insofar as the way the brain processes it, because you've got the left side of your brain is processing the pictures, and the right side of your brain is processing the text. And that's, it's the only medium where both sides of your brain have to be working in conjunction with one another to put a story together. And that's not something that you get with a book, and it's not something you get with a television show or a movie. And it's the way that Einstein's brain worked so well. So, if we can get more kids reading comics at an earlier age and get their brains working that way, then, we can not just be helping literacy, but we can be helping bilateral thinking in the whole.
I never thought of it like that, but yeah, you got a point there. Yeah, it's just I just love I just love drawing and this, and I've I've like writing, and the two things just gel together. I don't think I'm particularly good at art. I don't think I'm particularly good at writing, but when the two things are put together, they just kind of work well together. Blah, I don't know. I'm babbling
Well,
now.
how far back do you go with comics? I mean, can you remember your first comic?
What, reading comics?
Yeah.
When I was, my earliest memories were of my dad bringing home Mad magazines. But there's Mad collections. Sergio Aragone's Mad as a Hatter. That's the first comic I remember. So that was,
Sergio's good stuff.
yeah, and it was wordless. So even as a very young kid, I could get it. I could get that particular language.
Yeah, I'm 52 years old, and I remember I was reading comic books from my barber shop. Yeah, kind of ironic now, um, because well, at the time I was growing up in Sparta, Illinois, which you probably never heard of over there. But the big thing about Sparta, Illinois, was that every DC comic, every Marvel comic, every Pacific comic, every First comic, every Eclipse comic in the world was printed there at World Color Press.
Oh,
So
right. Okay.
there was no comic shop. It was before the direct market. Grocery stores didn't carry them because everybody worked there. It was either there or the coal mines. And if you worked there, guess what you were bringing home every night from the conveyor belt?
Oh, wow. Okay.
All the overprints. So, yard sales were just new comics all over the place. So that's what I was getting at. And, my barber would have them there to read. And I would always beg to take home the one I was in the middle of reading when I was done with my haircut because I hadn't finished it yet. So I've still got, not the original copy of it, but I've still got the first comic book I remember having, which was a Superman issue where he's grabbing onto the U in Superman, and he's in outer space. He's being stretched all the way into the center of the earth. He's begging the reader for help because something's sucking him in. And that was before kindergarten. Before kindergarten, I was actually reading, and nobody knew it until I got into first grade, and I wasn't paying attention to what the teacher was talking about when she was holding up a placard and reading it, because she was reading it so slowly, and I'd already finished it and moved on. So she saw that I was, comics had taught me how to read. I mean, not only did I already know that she was talking about photosynthesis and chlorophyll and plants and sunlight, and when she got smart with me and asked me if I wanted to read the next one, and I did, she pushed me on out to the next class. But, I was like, I learned that from, the Floronic Man was fighting the atom last month. And you want me to tell you anything about antimatter energy? Because I just saw that in the Flash. So that was where I was real good at non-science science. But reading was, it was just 26 letters in the alphabet. They only go together so many ways. And I had figured out the pattern from comic books.
Yeah.
Context and grammar. So, the more kids reading comics, the better.
That's the thing. And now with the prices of comics, it's paying $3.99 for a bloody 24-page floppy. I can't see that many kids are actually reading comics, at least not superhero comics. And it's the same thing here in the UK. Just the production values have gone up to the point where everything's in color, everything is glossy prints and all that. It's gone up a lot more than inflation. I think it's about, I calculated it. Using the start price of the old 2000 AD comics compared to now, taking into account inflation, the comics are about 5 times more expensive than what they were in the 70s when they started.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah.
Not only that, but there's an article out on criticalblast.com that I wrote where I went through this period where I had this crazy mad notion of doing, an article basically about, hey, comic books are more expensive now than they used to be. Breaking news. But what I did was I'm going to try something very risky here because I have so many things plugged into this laptop, including the microphone. But I have all of these long white boxes over here full of comic books, going back decades. So I said, I want to have something where I have a control that I can, say, be consistent. So I picked Justice League of America. I picked 12-issue consecutive runs from a random place in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and then the current age. And I went through and I not only wrote down the cover price of each one, I counted the number of pages in each book. I counted the number of stories in each run. So if I had 12 issues in the 60s, sometimes I'd have 14 stories because you have a story and a backup.
Yep.
I also counted the number of panels. And then, just because I was going nuts, I counted the words.
Okay. That's, right.
I counted the words.
Yeah.
For each run. And not only are comics getting more expensive per book, but we're getting fewer stories told with larger panels, told with fewer words.
Yeah.
So it's a double hit. We're paying more for the book, and then we're actually paying a lot more on a per story basis or a per word basis.
It's
12
exactly
issues of Justice League. Now you get 2 stories.
Yeah, I read an article. This was back in 2002, where there was a resetting, and at that point, it already identified the problem with Marvel Time, decompressed stories. It's been going on for ages and ages. And keeping, and the other problem is why people fall out of love with this stuff. I mean, okay, fine. In the 60s, you would have a complete Fantastic Four story in 24 pages. They would just tell a story in that amount of time, and you would have that sort of bang for your buck. You would have closure. It wouldn't just be an ad to buy more and more and more and more comic books with crossover comics and variant covers and all sorts of gimmicks to make you like some sort of Ponzi scheme to keep you spending money on this hobby. And
the way they would do it was like the last panel.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah.
The way they would do it would be the last panel where the family would say, "Hey, the Mole Man is in jail. Let's go home and celebrate." And from the shadows, Dr. Doom is watching. Says, "Take your victory now while you can, Fantastic Four, for my doom upon you. Ooh, come back next issue."
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But when it's just like a part one of a 16-part story, that starts on title of with Superman, when you get when you got the Man of Steel, Superman, and all the different Superman titles, and they just span all those different titles. There's a way to get you to buy a subscription of every single one of those Superman titles. That's what really got me out of superhero comics in general. I just felt like I was getting done. I just didn't feel like I was being respected as a reader. The other problem is too with timelines destroy. It's just the way they tell stories. They keep them perpetually in their 20s and 30s. These characters never develop. Aunt May should have been dead decades ago. The thing's essential character is that he yearns for a time where he could go back to being a human, but every few issues, there's something that turns him back into the original Ben Grimm, and he's okay. So that kind of destroys the core part of that character. Just turning the whole thing into a soap opera in perpetuity just doesn't make. And eventually, people just fall out of love with it because of this Ponzi scheme that just keeps carrying on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are buying comics now that were buying them then, simply because they have to complete it. They buy them because they've always bought them, and they're going to keep coming back unless the seller chases them off. And that's what's been happening. Is now the people producing the product are saying, quit buying our product, go away.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to just spark negativity. Let's look at the what's Captain F talking about here? What's he saying? Customers aren't kids anymore, they're collectors. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And Reed Troutman's here says, I don't think it's the cost. $5 is not that much to kids these days. It's access and poor quality that's the issue. I'll disagree with that. $5 may not be much to kids these days, but $5 is it's I'm the one who's giving my kid the money for his comic books, and $5 to me when I was spending 35 cents before is something that definitely hits my pocketbook.
The thing is, I never read one comic a month. I read 20 comics a month, you know.
Exactly.
And that's
When I was in
up.
college. Yeah, back when I was in college, my budget was basically, okay, what's the least amount of money I can spend on food so that I can free up all my money for comics? And I would come home every week with a stack of 20 comics.
You'll get a lot of comics for your student. Now it would be, it would be difficult. I think. No.
Tommy Marks, Reed Troutman, can you lend me $5? Of course, Tommy's asking for money.
Of course.
Someone else's money is going to buy my comic book.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've got with the show with Comic Mark does a show called Gay Space Communism, and it isn't, nobody on there is gay, nobody's there as a communist except maybe Comic Mark, and we don't talk about gayness or communism. It's just like a variety show. So I just want to make that clear. A lot of people think, oh, I saw you on this communist show. It's just good banter, and it's good. You know, it's just good fun at the end of the day.
Right. So where are we at on Merry Boys right now? I mean, is it already a go, or we're coming up on a deadline?
Yeah, I mean the completion date is in May, but I'm hoping I can hit that before then. I've got the whole of December off, luckily, so I can completely devote myself to just doing as much in the comic book as possible. And I've also I did a sketch tire where I have to do 40 original sketches to backers that has run out now, unfortunately, that I need to catch up on as well. So I'm just need to sit down and do that. And then
but it has hit goal.
Sorry, you're talking about the funding? I think you've frozen up.
Yeah, it's hit the goal though
Oh yeah, big time. It's 300%. I think it's 300% funded. Now we passed 300% funding a while back.
That's what I was trying to see.
Sorry, I think it's a bit choppy.
Right. Well, I tried to reload it.
You're right. Yep. Oh, you were trying to show a page at the same time. Yeah, that could have thrown a spanner in the works. Yeah, 200 there with.
Well, I tried to reload the
287%.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was originally. Yeah, so it's done quite well. I'm really surprised because I mean, you know the like with John Malin, he's very right in saying that before you start, you should start building your networks. You should get your channel up for at least 6 months to a year, and you know, get things rolling. I tried, but I'm just really bad at creating online content. So I just basically got into as many shows as I could, and got the Twitter up and running. I hadn't really been present on Twitter before, and somehow, yeah, it did quite well. I got a lot of interest from that, which I'm really grateful for, and really quite surprised at. I thought, like, initially, I thought, because it was going quite slow at the beginning, I thought, you know, I'll be happy if this thing can just, you know, hit the initial funding goal. Then that'll be amazing. But yeah, it's just taken off in a big way since then.
Well, it's good that you do the art yourself, though, because I think a lot of what holds other people back is they want to fund a comic, they want to do a comic. Sounds like we had an auto run video going in there.
Yeah, that's the pitch video.
All right, we're going to make it go a little faster here. I'm going to close down the Indiegogo page. Not literally, just my tab. That should speed things up. But, you know, I think a lot of people want to do a comic book, but the thing is, with needing an artist, if you're not an artist yourself, that's somebody you have to pay in advance.
It's very hard. I'm really happy. Despite the complaining, I'm really happy that I can just take I can take everything, the whole matter into hand. Because with artists, the thing is with artists, they also, especially if you've got a long project, say if you've got a 120-page graphic novel, you've got this space epic that you want to tell with a cast of thousands. Artists do have a tendency of falling off the boat, usually about halfway through when if they get that far, whether you
Sure.
pay them or not. It's just a big enterprise to do comic books. It's a hell of a lot of work. And yeah, it can be extremely difficult. I don't know what I would do if it was just a writer trying to get it done. It would be hard. You would have to find, I think, you'd have to go through a process, and you have to find somebody who's got the same sort of goal as you do, telling the same kind of story. Because very often artists are people who don't feel comfortable writing the thing themselves, but they've got but at the same time they've still got this wish list of things that they would like to draw in a comic book. Like a few boxes they want to tick. Yeah, I want to do a comic with this theme, with this kind of character, with that. So they need this sort of symbiotic relationship where they're working towards the same thing. And it isn't just like a hired gun, I guess. But it's just hard. It's hard to find somebody on exactly the same page as you. I would think.
Captain Nefhead here is giving us. If you want to know about UK projects, follow Comicsgate UK on Twitter. Very good. I did not know that handle existed out there. I will make sure to follow it as soon as the live stream is over here, because God knows if I try to follow it right now, I'll probably crash the computer.
A shout out to Peter Gilmore. He's the other well-known art. He did Tug's book, Littlest Umbrella.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent job he did on that.
Yeah, he's a limey.
And that book is also closing out tonight. So if you've missed that one and you had your money in hand and you didn't get Littlest Umbrella, well, you've still got your money in hand. So go throw it over here at Mary Boys and get in some other project. So your money doesn't just go to useless things like beer or gasoline. Get you some good comics here. Karl, it's been a pleasure having you here tonight. I know you're up very late over there just to participate in this little program, but
it's actually quite early. It's actually early for a US stream. You've obviously started right after work or something, because normally it's 9 p.m. EST, which is about 2 o'clock in the morning here. But this isn't actually that bad. So yeah, this actually works out quite well. Still a relatively early night for me.
It's got a few comments closing up here. Reed Troutman, if my kid wanted a Sean Gordon Murphy comic for $5, no problem. If they wanted Captain Marvel, I would not pay for that. Issue is they have never been exposed to comics because my comic shop closed. Oh, that is horrible. We have several great comic shops just in my town alone. We got like 5 of them. And we participate with Cosmic Comics in Belleville, Illinois. In fact, we'll be doing a live stream there Sunday afternoon,
cool.
Probably around 2 p.m. Central, where we're going to be doing like a home shopping network thing. We're going to put their phone number up, and he's got several cool items that we're going to be showing that are for sale. If you want to tune in and you see something you want, just call the number and he'll ship it right out to you. In fact, that's how we met when I was not living here, and he had a book on his Facebook page that I wanted, and I called him, and then when I did move here, I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm the guy that you shipped this book to, and we try to do a live stream once a month from there about what's going on in comics and in the industry and what's cool in the store and what's not selling, sort of like a state of the industry from inside a shop. But
that's valuable.
Yeah, very valuable.
The LCS voices need to be heard. I think they're getting taken for a ride by the big two.
We try to do a stream every once in a while with Michael Tierney, who runs a string of shops in Arkansas. He's an Overstreet Guide contributor, so he's one of the market people who tells what's going on. And he did a piece in the not the latest. Almost kicked my drink over. That would be a horrible waste. In this comic book price guide, if you have that one in your collection, Michael Tierney, he did a report on what was causing books not to sell that year, and blamed it squarely on Marvel's social justice movement, which went over about as well as you can imagine it did.
Yeah,
but,
truth hurts.
Yes, he had been to the retailer summit with Marvel, and it had all come up there, and it initially got cheers, and then it got boos by the people who were there to make sure it got booed.
It's not the only factor, but it is a marked factor. I think print in general is declining, but at the same time, it shouldn't be as bad as what it is. That's what I think. I mean, I'd like to see. But the thing is, a lot of people have just stopped buying comic books, but what they don't seem to realize is that there are so many good European comics out there. The European market is just booming. France, I mean, the French market alone is moving more of their own comic books than the American market. Relative to the population size, it's amazing to think about that. And Italy too isn't far behind. It's great.
Well, France has moved their humanoids printing division over to the United States. Why they did that, I have no idea, because they were doing so well before.
Yeah, they put Mark Waid in charge of it too, which is
humanity first. Yeah. If we want to talk about that, I'd keep you here for another hour, because I've got the whole conspiracy theory of the question board with lines and strings from Wade to Kwanzaa to Mags to ya boy. And it's like, this is a real incestuous pit of the stuff going on in the background here that is not being talked about, or at least looks like it's going on in the background and is not being talked about. But I'll save that for a more conspiratorial tinfoil hat stream that we'll do some other night. Karl, thank you for coming. Appreciate talking with you. Best of luck to you on Merry Boys. I want to see that thing hit the 10,000 mark tonight. So everybody, please share this stream. If they weren't here, let them know to listen in, find out what this book's about. And once they're interested, hit that link and go back Merry Boys. Thank you all for coming. Good night.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.